Hello, welcome to Programming Step by Step. My name is Karthik, and today we'll be studying about Spring Web Services Client. In this section, I'll be covering how to write Web Service Client using Spring Framework. To do this, we would need the following tools: Spring Tool Suite and Apache Maven. So you can download Spring Tool Suite from this website, and then you can download Maven from this website. So you can get Maven archive, unzip it, and then add to your path, and then you can download Spring Tool Suite from this website. Once you've added Maven to your path, you can check the Maven version by typing the following command. Also, you should have Java installed on your machine, so you can check the version of Java by using this command, and the version of Java compiler by using this command. Alright, going back to the tutorial. If you're new to Maven, you can go and refer this tutorials by Java Brains. It's a simple and step-by-step tutorial to understand Maven. So let me go back to the code and walk through the code structure in order to make a web service call. Before that, we'll use the web service hosted by webservicex.net to query weather information for any city. So this is the whistle for querying the weather information. So we are going to use the whistle to make our web service calls. So I have three modules: the weather service client, the core module, and the main project weather service client in an XML module. In the XML module, in the resources directory, I'm going to place the whistle that is hosted by webservicex.net. So this is the whistle. So I have to get the Java equivalent of this whistle to make web service calls. So I'm going to do some Maven configuration to do a WS import of the whistle, or rather use the Jaxp to Maven plugin to get the Java equivalent of this whistle, and then make web service call through Spring Framework. So this is the POM file for the XML module, and you can see the artifact ID is XML, and the packaging is going to be a jar. And then you can see I've used the Jaxp to Maven plugin and loading this whistle, and I'm going to get the Java equivalent on this when I run the Maven build. I've already run the build, so you can see in the src main generated folder, you can see for every operation on the whistle you have the Java equivalent, and then you have the object factory through which you can call the request for this web service. Okay, moving on to the core module. In this, I'm going to write the client, and then I'm going to write the Spring configuration. And before that, let's go and look at the Maven pom.xml. As you can see, the artifact ID for this is weather service client core, and I'm having a dependency on the XML module. so that I can use the Java classes that were generated from the Maven build of the XML module to invoke the web service. And I'm going to package this core module into a jar. So let's look into the Spring configuration to build our web service client. I'm using the Spring web service template to define my web service client. So I have a bean, and I call it the weather service web service template. And the default URI is the SOAP endpoint for the hosted web service by webservicex.net. And then this is a SOAP 12 web service, so I'm going to inject that as a constructor argument called SOAP message factory. And I'm using JAXB for my generated Java. So when the request is being marshaled, I need to feed the package to the JAXB marshaller. And I'm telling that my client will be in this package com Karthik Spring Learning weather service. So let's look at the client file. Okay, the client is weather service client impl, and I've annotated with @ of component so that the component scan base package can look up this class and identify it as an implementer of web service client. As you can see, I've auto-wired this web service template that I had defined in my Spring configuration, and this is what I'm going to use to make my web service class. So I'm going to get a request object for the method get weather and make a call to weather service client and get the response. So to test this web service, I'm going to write a main method where I'm going to build the request object called getWeather and populate its request parameters. And then using class path application context, I'm going to initialize my Spring application context. And using context.getBean, I'm getting an instance of this client. And then I'm calling the method getWeather by passing the request object. And whatever is coming in the response, I'm printing that. Let's try running this application. Before that, let's try to build this once and see how the Maven build happens. I'm going to do a clean and build. So as you can see, the order of this project is the main web service client and two more modules called XML and core. So I finished cleaning it and I'm going to build this. I'm running the main pom.xml. I'll just go to the main pom.xml. As you can see, I have dependency on Spring Web Service Core, Spring Web Service Security, and WSS4G. This is optional in case you're calling a web services which has authentication and authorization required. You can use WSS4G interceptor to add authentication. And modules are XML and core modules. Now I'm running it as a Maven install, and you can see it is going to use the JAXB to Maven plugin to get the Java equivalent of our pistol. As you can see here, it is parsing a schema and then generating the Java equivalent request and response object in the object factory. Now our build is successful. I'll try running the main method for the weather service client to see if it is calling our weather service web service. I'm running the client, and you can see that it is using the application context, initializing it and making a call to web service X and getting the information. and displaying the weather information for New Delhi. That's all for this tutorial. Thank you.